few people here today.
A lot of people partied last night.
Party the last night. Okay.
Yeah, comments lit till like 4 o'clock.
So make sure you sign your name.
I was in
Also
place all
make
night,
you
but I think it's like
half extra credit. Show you.
Oh, did y'all hear that? She said she might give us half extra credit for showing up.
Somebody's not paying attention to me. Who did not hear, do not get it.
how would you know? Take a bite. You did take a
Uh-oh.
All right, so we're going to move on to a new chapter today.
Oh. Chapter 10? Oh, chapter 9.
So far we have been talking about perfect competitive market, right? Okay. And in perfect competitive market, we know the efficiency is maximum. Efficiency reaches maximum. Today we're going to start talking about market structure that is not perfectly competitive. All right, so first I want to talk about term, okay? Market failure. I think some time ago I may mention this one before. Market failure. So how do we understand this concept here, market failure? The market failures. Any idea? Market failure.
This is from chapter 10.
This is from actually chapter 12.
Oh.
Maybe like when it starts, like when the economy crashes.
That definitely market fails then. Yes.
So,
Like if a weird technology comes out, like the Walkman got replaced with the MP3 player.
I may not necessarily. No. Market failure. Any other idea? Meaning of market failure?
Great Depression.
Yes. That will be one of the consequence of the market failure. Market failure is actually it's very general, and term. Whenever the market does not reach its highest efficiency, then we see market failures. Okay. Whenever market does not reach its highest efficiency, which means the resources are not allocated in the best way, most efficient way. So for the rest of the semesters, we're going to talk about what contributes to market failure. Okay? For the rest of the semester, we're going to talk about what contributes to market failure. Okay? The first thing that contributes to the market failure is imperfect market. Actually, I'm sorry. This should be imperfect competitive market. Competitive. Whenever we do not have a perfect competition in the market, we will have market failure. And if we have market failure, we're going to have a loss of efficiency that will cause the loss of social welfare. So first cause we're going to talk about is imperfect.
Market failure is such a blanket term that applies to so many different scenarios, and why is it called failure?
Failure could be a very general term, right? It could be a very general term, failure. Because it did not specify which area of the market fails. It just said market fails. Okay? So ask me why they gave it in that name. I don't know. But we know that, it is a quite general term. Okay. The second cause, okay? Second cause is imperfect information. I remember we talked about this as well, okay? Whenever there is imperfect information in the market, there's asymmetric information between buyers and sellers, then that will cause market failure. That will cause loss of efficiency. So, which means that seller, either seller has some information buyer do not have, or buyer has some information seller do not have. And to give you an example, in the labor market, you apply for a job, okay? And there's one side, you are the supply of the labor, and there's the demand of the labor, right? Okay. You know how productive you are, and you know your abilities, and you know the skills you have, okay? But the potential employer do not have those information, okay? Even though they can deduct some of those from reading your CV and from the interview, but it's not perfect, right? You can never have a perfect information about who you are, how productive you are as a worker. So in the labor market, it is imperfect information, okay? Because of the imperfect information, that's why we always have unemployment. Okay. So that's just one example of imperfect information, how imperfect information causes the market fail. Okay. Second cause, public good. Okay. What is public good? Do we have public library in Pembroke that everybody can access? You don't have to pay for it to use it, right? So it's considered public good. Okay.
Oh.
And park, beautiful park, everybody can access it. Public good. And the security of the town, okay, which is provided by the police force, and that's available and to everyone who lives here. Public good. Okay? So what's wrong with the public good? Okay. Public good actually benefits everyone because you don't have to pay to enjoy it. Right? Okay. However, public good costs money. Beautiful park costs money. Security costs money. Public library costs money. Okay. You know, some of the money come from tax. Okay. Some of them come from private donation. Okay. So if we don't have tax, we only depend on the private donation. Do you think we will have enough security, clean air, beautiful park, or public library if we all only depend on the private donation? Probably not, right? Okay, because people think, okay, other people can donate, we don't have to, I don't have to. Okay, so there was an issue with public good. In the market of public good, if there is no intervention of the third party, which is like, in this case, it's government, if there's no such thing, okay, we only depend on the market. Market may not deliver the sufficient quantity of public good, okay, and that will decrease the welfare of everyone. Okay, so whenever we talk about the market for public good, there is this insufficient supply issue here, okay, and that also causes the market fails. And later on, I'm going to talk about game theory, which we can use it to understand the provision of the public good. And there we're going to play a game. And through that game, and you're going to earn some extra credit. But I'm not going to tell you. You may earn actually quite a bit extra credit by playing that game. But I'm not going to tell you when I'm going to have you play that one. Okay, just be sure that you come here for the rest of semester. Okay, you could earn up to three extra credit on playing. Okay, but through playing that game, you will understand better about the provision of public good and also this insufficient supply issue. So, the market of public good, market main fails. Okay, the last one. What is it? Externality. Externality. Did we mention about externality at the very beginning? When I set up the in-class cell phone policy, and your cell phone ring, interrupt everyone's study, interrupt my instruction, so that action there impose a cost on others. That's called negative externality. If you are a reckless driver, you're a drunk driver, you put everybody else on the road in danger, your action impose a cost on others. That's negative externality. So negative externality is whenever, okay, and your action impose a cost on other people. Okay, that's called negative externality. What about positive externality? What do you think positive externality?
Like when you do stuff to benefit everyone else.
Could be like scholarships.
That could be something that your action provides a benefit to other people. Okay?
Charities.
Let's say, okay, if you are active participant, you're responsible participant in the class, okay, and your dynamic action interaction with the faculty benefit everybody else learning. That's positive externality. Okay. But if you talk, doing something else, in the class that may affect others and also me, that's negative externality. So externality means it either provides extra benefit or impose extra cost on other people without taking those into consideration when you make the action. Okay. So when the action involves externality, the market may fail. Why? Because if you don't take those kind of costs into consideration in your decision, and then your action may not be optimal. For example, you have you all live in dorm, right? Let's say your neighbor likes to play a really loud music. Okay. They play the loud music every night around 11 p.m. That is what causes negative externality, right? If that action is not being controlled or monitored or punished, that person may continue to decide to do so. And he or she would not take the cost on others into consideration. So in that case, and he will play the loud music too often. So that would not be optimal from the society welfare point of view. Okay. So whenever there is externality, we may have market failure. But of course, and we have remedy for such a thing. Okay. For example, there's always management office, you can call. If your neighbor plays loud music, you can call them. And management, manager can come over and tell your neighbor to stop. Okay, that's intervention from the third party. Okay, so that would be a remedy for externality. But if we do not have any kind of remedy for this kind of situation, then market may fail. So those kind of things will cause market fail, cause loss of efficiency. And for the rest of the semester, that's what we're going to talk about. Okay, we're going to talk about each one of them. Okay, so first we're going to start with this imperfect competition. Okay, we're going to talk about the several markets that actually has imperfect competitive market. So the first one we're going to talk about is called monopoly. Anybody knows what is a monopolistic market? Okay, what is monopolistic market?
Like when one company like owns everything or has like a foot in everything.
That's right. One provider. Do you know any monopolist?
Electricity.
Electricity, Duke Power.
Water.
Actually, before there was competition. I believe Progress Energy was a competition with Duke Power, but Duke Power actually bought them. They
Yeah.
merged.
It was progressing.
Okay. And water company. Okay. What else?
Garbage.
Garbage. Okay. Who take care of that? The garbage company or is
Yeah, like who you can choose to like recycle and everything. I mean, everyone pretty much has the same person or
Okay.
company.
Okay, good. So that's the monopoly market. That's what we're going to talk about today. And the second market here is called monopolistically competitive.
Hmm?
So if you look at this word here, it has both monopoly and competitive. So what do you think? What kind of market this is? In the monopolist market, there's no competition. You know, you're the sole provider, and you set price. You determine what to, how much to charge, and that's it. You extract all the surplus from the market. You own the whole market share. But what is monopolistic competitive market? What do you think that is? Since we have the competitive word there, there's competition there. Okay. However, there's also some monopoly power there. So what kind of market is like that? Okay, market like a restaurant market. Okay, and in the monopolist competitive market, you do have many providers, you have many suppliers. However, each provider differentiate their product from others. So you have a American restaurant offer American food, then you have like Italian restaurant offer different kind of food. You have Chinese restaurant offer Chinese food. You have Thai restaurant offer Thai food. So those different providers, those different restaurants differentiate their product from others. So by doing this way, they're able to charge a different price without losing all the customers. Remember when we talk about perfect competitive market, if you charge a different price, if you charge a higher price, you're going to lose all the customers because you provide identical products, right? But now in the monopolist competitive market, the reason you can charge a higher price, you can claim my steak is much better than the steak provided by other restaurants in the local area. So through the differentiation, they maintain what we call market power. That's another term that you need to know. Okay, you have a question?
So each restaurant has a monopoly on their specific type of food, but they're all competitive in that they're all in the food market.
That's right. So they do have some monopoly power, but also there's some competition in the market as well. You have a question?
Oh, I was just wondering, is that the same as cell phones like Android? There's so many different types.
Good you mentioned that. I'm about to talk about that market. Okay, I'm about to talk about that market. Yeah, just give me a few minutes. Okay, so for any imperfect market, the provider in that market will maintain some level of market power. So again, this is another term you need to know. What's the meaning of the firm has some market power? We know in a perfect competitive market, the firm has no market power, right? But all the firms in a perfect competitive market will have some level of market power. So what is market power? Okay, now I'm going to tell you the definition you need to remember. Market power is a power of charging a higher price without losing all the customers. That's it. If you can charge a higher price without losing all the customers, that means you have some level of market power. And in the monopolist market, you have all the market power because there's nobody compete with you. And that market power actually comes from what? The market share, because they own all the market, whole market. But for the monopolist competitive market, the market power does not come from the market share. Because you have competition, you have a lot of providers, if even in a small area like Pembroke, you have, I believe you have at least 3 Asian restaurants or takeout. So really, the market share in the monopolist competitive market is not big at all. So you do not maintain the market power from the market share, but you do from differentiation. So the market power a monopolist competitive firm has come from the differentiation of their product from everybody else. Okay. You guys know how to pronounce it, how to spell the differentiation? Yes. Do not, somebody really cannot spell that. Okay. So that's monopolist competitive market, all right? And we're going to talk about that next, but not today, okay? The very last one actually is going to be fit for the cell phone market we're going to talk about. It's called oligopoly. Okay, or we can say oligopolistic market. Oligopolistic market is a market where there are very few providers. Not one, not many, but very few. So it is somewhere in between monopoly and the monopolist competitive market. So for example, cell phone industry, cell phone market is example. How many cell phone providers you know in your area, in this area?
4.
About
Like 4.
Just
about 4?
Just
Yeah.
about. There might be some.
Okay. So you will have few, but not many. And each of them maintain a huge market power through that market share, okay, and through some level of differentiation. Okay. Another example would be airline industry, airline market,
What market?
airline,
Yeah.
airline, yeah.
So that would be the
Oligopolistic market. If they say you want to search, fly from here to Chicago, you Google it, you do it on Priceline. It will give you at most 10 providers. Okay. So that's the kind of characteristic for the oligopolistic market, very few. But each of them is very active in operating their market power. What do we mean by very active in operating their market power? They will look at other players, other providers' action, and then they will respond to what they do. For example, if they say Delta, has this $99 round trip ticket from here to New York or from here to Chicago. Okay, they may gain a lot of customers on that day, but you will see the next day some other deal will come from other providers. Okay, so the major difference between the oligopolistic market and the other two is in this market, each provider will carefully observe other players' action and will take other players' action into consideration when they act. So there is what we call interdependence. among the providers, among the firms in the oligopolistic market. Okay. And that interdependence only exists in the oligopolistic market, does not exist in any other market structures. Okay. So it's like playing a chess. I keep using this as example. Before I make the move, I will think how my opponent going to respond to that move before I make the move. So you take that into consideration. That's what oligopolistic firm will do. They will anticipate the opponent's action before they make any kind of move on price or output. Okay. So that's the three imperfect market structure we're going to talk about. Okay, and this week and next week. Okay, then after that we're going to talk about these three, and then that's the plan for the rest of the semester. Okay. All right. So today we're going to talk about monopoly. Monopoly is how to say is it's really not that difficult. Okay, it's not really difficult, but there's few things we need to know for the monopolist. And first we want to know, okay, how the if monopoly just going to set one single price, but you know that actually it's not the case all the time. Monopoly may charge a different price for different people, okay? And if they just charge a single price to everyone, how do they do that? And what will be their optimal output? That's the question we're going to answer first. So optimal price, optimal output. That's the first thing we're going to talk about. How do they set those? How do they set the optimal output and optimal price? Okay. So where do we start? Now let's go back to the perfect competitive market we talked about, for all this in the last 2.5 months. We learned something from there. What did we learn in terms of finding optimal output?
Marginal cost price.
Very good, very good, very good. Excellent. So what we learned there is we use for the perfect competitive market, we use P equal to MC to find optimal Q. But this comes from somewhere. Okay, where does it come from? Come from the marginalism, come from the marginal analysis. This is a restatement of this one. Okay. Marginal revenue equal to marginal cost. That's what we learned from the marginalism. No matter what kind of action we're talking about, the marginal revenue or marginal benefit has equal to marginal cost. And in a perfect competitive market, since each firm is a price taker, they have to take the price as a given, so they don't have any control over the price. So the marginal revenue, which is the gain from selling each additional unit, it's just the price. So that's why we replace marginal revenue with price in a perfect competitive market. So you should know, actually this comes from that, okay? And this actually is our universal rule. And monopolist has to follow that, okay? Just like everybody else, monopolist is going to follow that. How about monopolist competitive firm? Yes, it has to follow that. How about oligopolist, a cell phone firm? Yes, it has to follow that. So everybody has to follow that. But in a perfect competitive market, and this is just equivalent to that. I'm going to write down this way. So you know that it's also MR equal to MC. But because the P equal to MR, that's why it can be written as that P equal to MC. Okay. So this is what we use to find optimal output. Okay. Question?
It's not about this though.
Say it
It's
again.
not about this though.
It's not about what?
It's not about this.
What do you mean it's not about this?
I gotta go to a conference.
Okay. You have a conference to go?
Mm-hmm.
Please provide me with document with that. Okay. So that's what we're going to use to derive the optimal output. And I'm going to, so let's do this on the graph. We're going to do it on the graph. Okay, so I'm actually going to have the graph for the perfect competitive here, perfect competitive market as well. So remember, for perfect competitive firm, we have marginal price, marginal cost like that, okay? And then we have a price, okay? And we use this to determine Q star, right? That's what we learned, all right. Okay, so we know this P star is just equal to marginal revenue in this case. Okay, so now we're going to draw something for the monopolist. Okay? The shape of the marginal cost remain the same for the monopolist. But what's difference? Is the marginal revenue. Okay. What's the difference? It's the marginal revenue. How is it different? Okay. First, I have to draw the demand. This is the demand in the market, which represent consumers' preference. And the monopolist fits all the consumers, can serve all the consumers in that market. So the demand faced by the monopolist is the demand in the whole market. Okay, you need to remember this. Because later on when we talk about monopolist competitive market, when we talk about like Italian restaurant or Chinese restaurant, they have their own targeted customers. So those targeted customers only represent as one segment market. So when we draw the demand, that demand only represent their targeted customers. But here, since we only have one provider, this demand here represent whole market demand. Okay? So if this is the demand faced by the monopolist, we're going to derive the marginal revenue from the demand. So the marginal revenue, okay, so let me repeat the definition here. Marginal revenue means when you sell one more unit, what's the additional revenue you can gain? When you sell one more unit, what's the additional revenue you can gain? Okay, that has everything to do with the market. So the marginal revenue actually is derived from the market demand. If I give you the function for this demand line, you would be able to derive the marginal revenue line based on this demand. And where is it located? Marginal revenue is always, please, excuse me?
He's like,
He's a big
Bro,
guy.
I'm getting out.
I'm dead, yo. You
I'm
just
getting
walked
out.
right
I've
out.
seen him in the gym. That man is humongous.
Bro, I'm dead, yo. Yeah, is that crazy, bro? You walked to this.
I mean, he's got imaginary lat syndrome, but he's got the lats. So
Yeah, man. Bro, he just walked out. Bro, I kept right on going. Like it's you.
There's
He's
some
the
parts
savage.
of it I can't think about right now. Just like a big cartoon.
He
Did
just.
you really just walk out the whole class?
Bro, he did, Tom. He definitely did.
Quick, out the window.
She's not happy about that one.
Did you get him?
I did. Talk to him. And I hope this will not happen again. What's that? What is that?
Huh?
What is that? Okay, so let's go back here. So the marginal revenue represent the information from the market. That's why we have to derive the marginal revenue from the demand, okay? How do we derive it? We don't have to worry about it because, I don't want to make the material in this class too technical, okay? You don't need to worry about how do we derive it. But if you're taking like a managerial economics, another level, intermediate microeconomics, you will have to learn how to derive that. But, just to know, marginal revenue also represents something that in the market and is derived from the demand, okay? And it has to start from the same point, and it always has a steeper slope in the demand, okay? So now we know this is the marginal revenue, and we also have the marginal cost. How do we find optimal output? How do we find optimal output? Do we know the rule?
Oh, is
Marginal.
there?
Oh, yeah, with the marginal revenue.
Marginal revenue equal to MC, right? It's right here. So the corresponding point here represent optimal output. So that's where the level of output the monopolist should choose in order to maximize profit. So we answered one question. We answered the Q star. What about P star? Remember, monopolist is a sole provider, so they're no longer price taker. They set the price. They are the price setter. So how do they set the price to maximize their profit?
High.
Hmm?
High.
To me,
High, that's right. But where? Can we find it on the graph and how?
is it to me?
It's about the demand.
Where is it above demand?
Very good. So how do we do it?
You just.
Meet demand. How to meet demand?
You just go straight up from Q.
That's excellent. You're just this, right?
Yeah.
Go straight up. Very
You
good.
don't worry about marginal cost. You just go straight up because they can set the price. They don't have to worry about
Then?
names. And then just
This way.
Yeah.
Excellent.
cool.
Okay. Okay. Can you explain to us why that's the price they should choose? Explain to us.
They don't have to abide by their marginal cost because they can set the price however they want to, since they're a monopoly.
As long as they're meeting the demand. they
Yeah, as long as they
set their
meet the
price
demands.
That's right.
Set the price at whatever.
Exactly.
So
Okay.
if they went lower on the graph where demand meets marginal cost, then they'd
That's
be
right.
losing potential.
That's right.
Yeah.
So basically, the price and quantity they choose has to follow the law of demand, right? If they want to sell this much, they have to charge this much, right? Okay. So excellent. So that's how we determine the marginal, the optimal price and optimal output for monopolist. All right. Now I want to ask you here, what is consumer supply? Now we have figured out the P star and the Q star. What is consumer surplus?
Is it that tiny triangle between
It's a tiny triangle.
the one between MR and Vivid?
Yeah.
Remember, the consumer surplus represent the area between market price and the demand, right? So this is our consumer surplus. If this market here is not run by monopolist, it is a perfect competitive market, what do you think a consumer surplus be? Will be more or less?
Less.
More, right?
It's more.
Yeah, the price will be lower and the consumer welfare will be more. What about the firm's producer surplus compared to the surplus here?
It'd also be more. I think.
More.
What is consumers? What is a producer surplus under perfect competitive market?
Below the price. Oh, it's below the price. Oh, yeah, the price.
We talk about the long run equilibrium, right? That's very last lecture, right?
Yeah.
In the long run, what is the economic profit for each firm in that market? What is that long run equilibrium point? The price has to equal to what?
The short run.
The lowest point of that average cost, right? So the economic profit in the long run for any firm in a perfect competitive market is equal to what? 0. 0. That's something you need to remember here. When you have a perfect competitive market, you cannot maintain a positive profit for a very long time. As long as it is a perfect competitive market, you allow free entering and free exit. Other firms will come to the market if there is positive profit margin to exhaust them. Eventually, that any kind of profit margin will be exhausted by the competition. So in a perfect competitive market in the long run, the firm will always make 0 profit. If the firm makes 0 profit, what is producer surplus in that market?
0.
Yeah, it's 0.
Okay, it is 0. So, but monopolist, the producer surplus is not equal to 0. The next you may ask, okay, we know in the monopolist market, the consumer surplus will be less, but producer surplus will be more. So what about the sum of these two, which means the social welfare? Is it going to be bigger or smaller compared to a perfect competitive market?
Smaller.
It's going to be smaller, that's right. And what do we call that difference of the social welfare? Deadweight loss. Okay. So next I'm going to show you using a very simple graph which area represents deadweight loss and how much is deadweight loss. Okay. Use that simple graph. Let me say this is marginal cost. This is demand. This is the marginal rate. Okay. So this is a very kind of special case, simple and special case. So this is MC. Actually, this is also equal to ATC for the firm. This is represent market demand. Okay, the demand in the whole market. And marginal revenue is derived from market demand, so it's below that. And this represent the firm. Okay, that's represent firm. Okay, this firm has a constant marginal cost and a constant average total cost. Okay, we're going to look at this graph in 2 different ways. Okay, the first, we assume that this is a perfect competitive market. If this is a perfect competitive market, can you tell me where is optimal, where is equilibrium price and where is equilibrium output? If this graph here represents a perfect competitive market, in a perfect competitive market, how do we determine equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity?
where MR equals MC?
That is when we find optimal output and for each firm, okay? But if we want to find equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity in the whole market, in a perfect competitive market, we just follow the supply and demand model, right? You have the demand, you have the supply, then where they meet, that will be the equilibrium point, right? So we do have the demand, but where's the supply? Where's the supply?
Is it on there?
Yes, it is on.
So is it the marginal cost?
It is a marginal cost line, but why? Yes. So in a perfect competitive market, that marginal cost would be the supply. Why?
So the cost of, well, no.
We talk about this at the end of producer theory. I think before the long run equilibrium, we talk about this. Where the supply curve comes from, where the supply curve is derived from. The supply curve is derived from the firm's marginal cost curve. Remember we talked about is if let's assume if this is I'm gonna make it small here. This is ABC, this is ATC, right? And we know this is a shutdown point. And this part, remember we talked about this part of the marginal cost curve actually is the supply. Remember that we talked about? So, okay, so it's marginal cost and actually is where the supply curve come from. Since here, and you're given a constant marginal cost, and this will represent the supply line and in a perfect competitive market. So if this is a supply line, this represents equilibrium quantity, and this represents equilibrium price, right? In a perfect competitive market. Just look at that marginal cost curve, think that it's a supply. But this time the supply is not positive slope, it's horizontal. All right, so if it is horizontal, can you tell me where is the consumer surplus? Where is the social welfare? Which area represents consumer surplus?
The top of it?
Oh, there. Okay. How about social welfare? It's the same area. Okay, it's the same area, and basically the producer surplus is equal to 0. Okay, so that whole area here represents the social welfare and the perfect competitive market. And how about now we're going to look at the graph differently. Now we look at this graph, say this represents a monopolistic market. If this represents a monopolistic market, can you tell me where's the optimal output? Using MR equal to MC, where is optimal output?
Where R equals MC.
Right? Is it here?
Yes.
This will be the output produced by the monopolist. You can tell that monopolists produce much smaller quantity, okay? And what the price the monopoly is going to charge?
Same. Or, well, no.
Uh-oh.
No.
Sure.
No. You're going to straight up to the where?
The demand.
To the demand. And this will be the monopoly price. And you see the monopoly price is much higher than the perfect competitive price. Can you tell me which area now represent consumer surplus, which area represent monopolist producer surplus?
That small triangle.
The small triangle now represent consumer's gain, and this rectangle here represent monopolist gain. So what's the area that is lost due to the monopolist market?
That area outside of
This one here. So this is the deadweight loss due to the inefficiency caused by the monopolist.
You said that the square next to the deadweight loss, and then
This is a monopolist game.
okay.
Monopolist game. Yeah, monopolist profit. Basically, price minus average total cost multiply Q, using the same formula we learned before. So the reason we want to use this kind of special case is by looking at this, you can see clearly where the deadweight loss. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna stop here. We have a few things left, for the monopolist, and we'll finish up with it. So make sure you come here every day because you never know when I'm going to play the game, okay?
Eight.